The night air bit through his jacket as 34-year-old Ethan Cole knelt beside a smoking SUV on the side of Highway 47. The storm clouds had barely cleared, and his hands were already black with grease. He didn't know the woman's name, just that she was alone, stranded, and scared. When she whispered, "You don't have to help me," he only said, "Yeah, I do." That single act of kindness would change everything Ethan thought he knew about fate, failure, and second chances. Before we dive in, drop a comment with where you're watching from, and don't forget to hit subscribe for more videos like this. Let's begin. The wind cut sharp through the dark fields as Ethan Cole tightened the last bolt under the SUV's hood. His flashlight flickered, dying fast, and the only other light came from the soft orange glow of the stranded woman's phone flashlight, shaking in her hands. She looked out of place there, standing in her cream blazer and heels like someone who belonged in a boardroom, not the side of a back road. "Try it now," Ethan called, wiping the grease from his fingers onto his jacket. The woman, Olivia Grant, maybe mid-30s, slid into the driver's seat and turned the key. The engine sputtered, coughed, then came alive with a steady purr. Relief crossed her face like sunrise after a storm. "You did it," she breathed, stepping out again. "I thought I was going to be stuck here all night." Ethan shrugged, giving a faint grin. "Lucky break. Just a clogged line and a bad connection. You're good now." But when she reached into her purse and pulled out a wallet, he raised a hand immediately. "Don't," he said quietly. "I don't take money for helping someone who's freezing in the middle of nowhere." Olivia froze, her breath visible in the cold air. "At least let me." "Ma'am," Ethan interrupted gently. "You're shivering. Sit in the car for a bit. Heater works fine now. I'll pack my tools." He spoke with the steady calm of a man used to fixing things other people had already given up on. Machines, lives, dreams. The kind of man who'd seen hard days and learned to keep moving anyway. When she sat back inside, Ethan crouched by his old pickup truck and exhaled into his hands to warm them. The cold bit through his torn gloves. In the faint reflection of the truck mirror, he could see her looking at him. Hesitant, curious, maybe even guilty. He climbed into his truck and was about to pull away when she knocked on his window. "Wait," Olivia said. "You shouldn't drive home like that. Your truck sounds worse than my SUV did." Ethan chuckled. "Yeah, she's old, but she still runs." "Where do you live?" she asked. He hesitated. "About 15 miles that way. Edge of town." Her eyes softened. "Let me at least follow you back. Make sure you get home safe. It's the least I can do." He wanted to refuse, but something in her voice, earnest, fragile, made him nod. "All right. Just keep your lights on me." They drove through the sleeping town, streetlights glinting off puddles from the earlier rain. Ethan's truck coughed now and then, the engine groaning like an old man with bad knees. When he finally turned into a narrow gravel driveway beside a small house, Olivia parked behind him. Ethan stepped out, stretching his sore back. "Told you I'd make it," he said, smirking. But Olivia was staring at the house, a small wooden porch, a flickering porch light, and a single bedroom window glowing faintly. Through the glass, she saw a little boy fast asleep on the couch, a blanket tucked around him. "Your son?" she asked softly. "Yeah," Ethan said, his tone gentling. "Danny, 7. He waits up sometimes when I'm out on late jobs." Her throat tightened. "You fix cars for a living?" Ethan laughed quietly. "I fix anything people can't afford to replace. Engines, heaters, radios, sometimes even broken hearts." She smiled for the first time. "That's Poetic for a mechanic. I'm not a mechanic, he corrected, wiping his hands again. I'm just a dad trying to make ends meet. Something flickered in Olivia's eyes. Recognition, maybe, or guilt. She wanted to say more, but her phone buzzed, lighting up her face. Dozens of missed calls, unread messages from board meeting 9 a.m. The world she came from was calling her back. She looked up at Ethan. Thank you again? Really? Just promise me you'll get that connection replaced soon, he said. Temporary fix won't last long. I promise, she said, then hesitated. Ethan, if I wanted to reach you again, how would I? He chuckled, walking toward his porch. Town garage, corner of Oak Street. Ask for the guy who still believes in doing good without charging for it. Olivia's lips curved into a faint smile. That's rare these days. Yeah, he said, turning halfway back. That's why I still do it. When her car pulled away, Ethan leaned on the porch railing, watching the taillights fade into the horizon. He didn't know who she was, or why that encounter felt heavier than it should have. But he felt something shift, like maybe, for once, life had noticed his quiet kindness. Inside, his son stirred awake. Dad, you fix another car? Ethan smiled, brushing his boy's hair. Yeah, buddy, someone needed help. Danny yawned. You always help people. Because someone once helped me, Ethan whispered, more to himself than to his son. He didn't know that the woman he'd just helped would show up again the next morning, with news that would change both of their lives forever. Sunlight spilled over the small town like gold dust, glinting off the cracked windshield of Ethan's old truck. He'd barely slept. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw that woman's face, Olivia. There was something about her voice, her calm despite the chaos, that stayed with him. He poured black coffee into a chipped mug and stood by the window, watching Danny chase their neighbor's dog in the yard. His hands were still sore from last night's work, and the scent of oil clung to him like old memories. Then he heard the sound, low, smooth, expensive, the unmistakable hum of a luxury engine. He stepped onto the porch and froze. A sleek, black Mercedes rolled into his driveway, sunlight flashing off the chrome. Olivia stepped out, no longer the stranded woman from the night before. Her posture was sharp now, her clothes perfectly tailored, and two men in suits trailed behind her. Ethan blinked. You lost again? He asked, half smiling. Olivia laughed softly, a sound that didn't fit this quiet part of town. No. This time, I came on purpose. Pretty far drive for a thank you, he said, crossing his arms. She took a few steps closer, her heels crunching against the gravel. You said I should replace the connection. I did. And while the mechanic worked, I couldn't stop thinking about you. About what you said. Ethan tilted his head. What part? That you fix things people can't afford to replace, she replied, her eyes narrowing thoughtfully. You don't realize how rare that is, Ethan. Most people only fix what benefits them. He shrugged, uncomfortable under her gaze. I just try to do right by folks. World's tough enough as it is. She smiled faintly. Do you know what company you fixed that car for? He frowned. Didn't check. Looked like a standard SUV to me. It wasn't standard, she said, stepping aside and gesturing to one of the men in suits. The man handed her a folder. That vehicle was a company car from North Tech Automotive Innovations. Ethan's breath caught. Wait, North Tech? You're kidding? I'm not. Her eyes gleamed now. And I'm the CEO. The words hit him harder than the cold wind that swept the yard. North Tech wasn't just any company. It was the one Ethan used to dream of working for. back when he'd studied engineering before life forced him to drop out to raise his son. He took a slow step back. "You're the CEO?" Olivia nodded. "Olivia Grant, and you, Ethan Cole, just saved one of our prototypes last night." He blinked. "Prototypes? That thing looked like a family car." "That's the point," she said with a smirk. "We're building the next line of hybrid SUVs, designed for middle-class families. We were testing the field durability system. You repaired a fault our own engineers missed." Ethan rubbed the back of his neck, half in disbelief. "I didn't do anything special. Just used what I had." "Sometimes that's all it takes," Olivia said softly. "Using what you have when no one else will." He didn't know how to respond. The silence stretched until Danny ran up to the porch, barefoot and curious. "Dad, who's that?" Olivia crouched slightly, smiling warmly. "Hi there, I'm Olivia." Danny tilted his head. "You the lady from the broken car?" Olivia laughed, nodding. "That's me. Your dad's a real hero, you know that." Danny grinned proudly. "I know. He fixes everything." Ethan looked away, his throat tightening. A few minutes later, they were sitting around his small kitchen table. Olivia's assistant waited outside, giving them privacy. She glanced around the modest room, clean but worn, full of life. A stack of bills sat half hidden under an old newspaper. "You live simple," she said quietly. Ethan smiled faintly. "Yeah, simple's honest. I work nights at the garage, fix things around town when I can. Helps keep the lights on." She sipped the coffee he'd made. Burnt, too strong, but she didn't complain. "You ever think about working in engineering again?" He chuckled, shaking his head. "Thought about it plenty, tried too. But once you've got a kid to feed, dreams take a back seat." Olivia set her cup down. "What if I told you that doesn't have to be true anymore?" He looked up sharply. "What do you mean?" She leaned forward, voice firm but kind. "Ethan, your mind's sharp. You spotted a design flaw my own staff missed. I don't want to let that go to waste. I want to offer you a position at North Tech, head of mechanical diagnostics. Full benefits, flexible hours." Ethan blinked, as if waiting for her to laugh. "You're serious?" "Dead serious," she said, smiling now. "You helped me when I was stranded in the dark with no reason to trust you. Let me return the kindness in daylight." His voice cracked slightly. "Olivia, this isn't pity, right?" Her expression softened. "No, Ethan. This is respect." For a long moment, he couldn't speak. Danny peeked from the hallway, clutching his little toy car, whispering, "Dad, are we okay?" Ethan turned toward him, tears threatening but never falling. "Yeah, buddy, I think we finally are." Olivia stood, buttoning her coat. "I'll have my driver pick you up Monday morning. Welcome to North Tech, Ethan." And just like that, the woman he'd rescued from the dark had brought him back into the light. Monday morning arrived with a nervous heartbeat. Ethan adjusted the only clean-collared shirt he owned, brushed Danny's hair, and tried to ignore the mirror's reflection, the calloused mechanic trying to look like a man who belonged in a corporate lobby. Danny grinned up at him. "You look like one of those TV scientists, Dad." Ethan chuckled. "Let's hope they think so too." Outside, a sleek black car waited at the curb. Olivia's driver stepped out, nodding politely as he opened the door. Ethan swallowed hard, kissed Danny on the forehead, and whispered, "Be good for Mrs. Harper, okay? I'll tell you all about it tonight." As the car pulled away from the little house, the town fell behind him. Gravel roads turning into glass towers and traffic lights. He pressed his hands together, fighting the doubt crawling up his chest. This world didn't belong to men with oil-stained hands. It belonged to polished shoes and perfect smiles. But Olivia believed in him, and that belief carried weight. When he entered North Tech headquarters, it felt like walking into another planet. White floors, spotless walls, the faint hum of machines that cost more than his entire house. A receptionist smiled. "Mr. Cole? Miss Grant is waiting for you." Ethan followed her through glass corridors until Olivia appeared at the end of the hall, dressed in a navy suit that matched her calm confidence. "Right on time," she said warmly. "Wouldn't dream of being late," he replied, trying to hide his nerves. She led him into a vast engineering bay filled with technicians and prototypes. "This is where it all happens," she said. "The people here are some of the best minds in the country, and today you're one of them." Heads turned as she spoke. Some greeted him with polite nods, others with quiet judgment. One young engineer whispered just loud enough, "A mechanic? Seriously?" Olivia heard it but didn't flinch. She simply said, "You'll be reporting to him on diagnostics. He caught a fault your team missed." The engineer went silent. Ethan felt heat rise in his cheeks, but said nothing. He just nodded, walked toward the test bench, rolling up his sleeves. Within minutes, he was in his element. The room's chatter faded as he traced a problem through the circuit, muttering to himself. Then, click. The prototype engine purred like a sleeping cat. The team froze. One of the senior engineers leaned over, disbelief in his voice. "You just fixed the sensor?" Ethan smiled faintly. "Didn't fix it, just listened. Machines talk if you pay attention." Olivia grinned proudly. "Told you he's different." Hours passed like minutes. For the first time in years, Ethan felt alive, challenged, seen, useful. By lunch, even the skeptics started asking for his input. Still, his humility never wavered. When Olivia walked past his station that afternoon, he looked up from a schematic. "You know," he said, "I keep waiting for someone to tell me this was all a dream." She smiled softly. "If it were, you wouldn't be sweating over a combustion diagram." He laughed. "Fair point." Then her tone shifted, gentle, sincere. "Ethan, I didn't bring you here out of charity. I brought you here because good people deserve better breaks. You reminded me of something I'd forgotten. Leadership isn't about power. It's about lifting others." He nodded, words catching in his throat. "You didn't just give me a job, Olivia. You gave my son a future." Her eyes glistened. "And you gave me perspective." Weeks later, North Tech unveiled its new hybrid SUV. Reporters filled the showroom, flashing cameras, praising innovation. Olivia stood at the podium and gestured toward Ethan. "The man responsible for saving this project," she announced, "isn't an engineer from an Ivy League school. He's a single father who fixed what no one else could, because he refused to stop caring." Applause thundered through the hall. Ethan stood frozen, emotions swelling in his chest. That night, when he came home, Danny ran into his arms. "Dad, we saw you on TV." Ethan hugged him tight, whispering, "Guess we did okay, huh?" Danny smiled. "You always said kindness comes back. I think it just did." Ethan looked out the window at the dark sky, the same one that once held nothing but struggle, and whispered, "Yeah, buddy." It really did. And for the first time in years, he felt like the engine of his own life was finally running smooth again.